At the beginning of 2004, China is beginning to make its presence felt in both international influence and economic exports. The Zemin policy of economic reform under the watchful eye of the ever-powerful CCP has proven to be very effective. Already undergoing one of the quickest periods of economic growth in history, the rate of this expansion continues unabated throughout the coastal areas, with the inner parts of the country lagging behind by only a little. The shift to a two-China policy at first was very effective in opening up closer ties with the West and the United States, but has begun to become undone as the Taipei government underwent a series of protests, resulting in the friendly government being ousted under the evidence of corruption. China, of course, denies all involvement, but the rift between the two countries is widening yet again. The Shanghai Cooperation Zone is in the process of becoming turned into a proper IGO, as both Russia and their allies, China and theirs, as well as a much friendlier ASEAN, all meet to discuss the future of the Eastern Bloc. The radical ideas from the Russians could prove dangerous in creating solidarity and agreement. Envoys will be sent to Paris within the year, as the summit is being hosted there by the French government, who is attempting to get a level of cooperation on addressing the climate issue. Although China, of course, finds it problematic, it is unacceptable that this would be used as a tactic by the West to stop our expansion, when they have already reaped the benefits of unrestricted economic growth. Zemin is as ever a force in guiding China's politics, but is rumored to be on the lookout for a successor. Whether this happens in a month or 5 years is unknown, but it is a signal of possible change on the horizon. This is an episode of Millennium Dawn Roleplay, a mod for Hearts of Iron 4. I hope you enjoy, and please leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy. I believe we have a quorum met then, right?
Yes.
Start the voting then. China votes yes.
America, is this on Taiwan? If this is on Taiwan, yes. America also votes yes.
Russia votes yes.
UK votes yes.
Wonderful. Let's head back in. The United Nations Security Council has voted to include Taiwan in the United Nations General Assembly. So China historically has been very involved with climate talks because it's, a prestige thing. They want to look like they're not, they're involved with international diplomacy, they're involved in decision making, and that they are trying to improve things. In reality, China only does like the bare necessity to basically look not bad while prioritizing their industry. So we'll attend the Paris Accords, but to us, we'll promise like what we need to, but we're only going to make the changes necessary to look good while allowing our industry to be built up. We're not going to allow ourselves to not grow at a very quick rate just to solve climate issues, which to us in 2003 won't be a very big issue, especially considering the United States and the West managed to fully industrialize themselves with having no limits upon themselves. To us, it would be very unfair, and it is unfair, so we'll only do the bare necessities. So we can go for renewable energies. We can go for sun, nuclear, or cheap coal. So, and then if we go down the nuclear route, we can actually get fusion power plants later on in the game. So we will probably go nuclear. We could discuss that at the Paris Accords, which I believe this is the Paris Accords. I am an ambassador from Beijing.
Of course. Welcome to Paris. I believe that we can get the meeting started, and any late nations that wish to join can arrive in Paris on their own accord. I think that we should first discuss that the global temperature has risen a 0.53, I believe, is the correct number of a degree in Celsius. This is not a regional increase, it is a global increase. It is affecting the entire globe. It is bound to get out of control if we do not tackle this issue early on. I would ask that all nations present here are willing to work towards obtaining clean and energy efficient sources of power. France is more than willing to export our technologies of nuclear energy to the globe and the global community, and to teach your nation of how to utilize this energy if you are interested.
We would like to ask explicitly, how exactly this will be handled, given that the West has allowed themselves to be entirely industrialized and taken wealth from the rest of the world. I assume that these demands will not be set across the board, so developing countries that have been taken advantage of, such as China and other post-colonial nations, will not have the same standards expected as the Western powers that fully benefit from the industrialization that they now have, when they did not have to deal with such things.
That could be discussed further down the road.
That is going to be a very big concern that China will not wish to proceed with anything until that issue is discussed.
I understand that there are developing nations and there are developing regions in the world, and that people do have to burn fossil fuels, and this would not be an outright ban on fossil fuel burning. This would just be a dedication of all nations present to cut back on our carbon emission.
US will be willing to announce policies that will help reflect and help combat carbon emissions in America. But of course, this will have to be done slowly, as US still has to reshuffle and reform.
Forgive me here, but if I'm not mistaken, it's not the United States that makes up well over the majority of all fossil fuel emissions on the planet.
Yes, we will.
So perhaps before you start discussing other countries, you should look inward and look after your own house, which affects the rest of the planet.
However, I do believe that there should be an exception for nations that are still developing. Of course, Western nations are more wealthy, and we have the opportunities to branch off into these new alternate energies, whereas nations like Sudan do not. So it would be the Western world's duty to help fund these poorer nations in order to help them transition to cleaner energy. I would propose that nations that have a GDP per capita of less than less than 30,000 are going to be accepted to have an exception of needing more time to be able to develop into green energy solutions. Was there anything else from the other members here?
Not regarding this issue.
Very well. The first Paris climate meeting is adjourned.
Taiwan is formally part of the UN again, which we proposed. We did the two China policy. We're playing basically a very diplomatic, peaceful rise of power to China. We're basically going to go the alt history route where China didn't stay semi-hardline socialist, and Xi Jinping never gets power, and they just basically join the WTO and cooperate with world commerce and build themselves up through that. A dangerously low level of air pollution in our country, coupled with a finite supply of coal, demands a response from our government in the form of an appraisal of alternative sources of energy. Despite significant public opposition to the construction of new nuclear reactors, nuclear power is one of the most viable renewable alternatives to fossil fuel. However, it involves a substantial financial cost associated with the need for an elaborate system of supporting infrastructure. The disposal of high-level radioactive waste, such as nuclear fuel, remains a major consideration resulting from our nuclear energy program. High-level waste has to be treated with extreme care and stored in a geological repository for decades for it to decay. We have identified the Baishan region of the Gobi Desert as a suitable place to begin construction of this repository. So the government is currently entirely focused on renewable energy and the transition to nuclear power. Now this is interesting because Jiang Zemin was an engineer. Hu Jintao, his successor in real life, was also an engineer. So they're very focused on energy. And this would be a project probably very important to them. The government of China is undergoing a lot of internal issues. Jiang Zemin has made some very dramatic policy changes that the hardliner conservative CCP members are not liking. The Shanghai clique is very dominant in the government, but despite that, a lot of internal discussions in the party are very hot right now because he is taking a very involved stance towards the West and has opened up markets entirely. So we are having to currently deal with a lot of internal issues, primarily based on a lack of backing for many of his policies.
Greetings, Chairman Zemin.
Mr. Putin.
I just came early to extend my formal invitations to the victory parade that will be happening in Russia on the 9th of May in celebration of the defeat of Nazi Germany. Will China be taking part?
Of course, I'd happy to be there to attend the parade. I know it's a very important day for your country. Since both of our peoples fought in World War II, it would be a good sign of solidarity. I'd be happy to attend. All right, we did just get tagged in a post. Let me read that out. The BPP has won the presidential unexpectedly and also has a slight majority in the legislative one. This means that the ROC is expected to implement very liberal policies which may upset the PRC. President Shui Bian made a speech where he said, "This is a new era for the Republic of China. We will continue to oversee rapid economic growth and we will repair our political struggles that occurred during the Kuomintang administration." So the Kuomintang are no longer in power. It's now Chen Shui-bian, who is a member of the Democratic Progressive Party. Is that the South China Sea was very contended by China. China claims basically all of it, but large regions of it are claimed by Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and the Philippines. So what we're doing is negotiating territorial differences so that we're not claiming the whole China Sea anymore. We'll be getting an established zone. We'll probably want to basically, in the peace treaty, probably claim something like this. So a large region of it, including the parcels, but this region we're not going to make any more contentions on, so we can actually start to cooperate with Asian members. We do need to reform our health system as well, because right now we provide really no health options to the people of China, and considering the fact that we are trying to improve the quality of life quite dramatically as part as our opening up to West and the standards that the West has, we will need to prioritize that, but right now we are just working pretty much purely on expanding our industry really rapidly.
Greetings, Mr. Zemin.
I have arrived here a little early along with my guard, as I'm sure you are aware.
I'm aware. Your soldiers seem to be enjoying their stay in Moscow.
Indeed, it's a beautiful country and a beautiful capital too. I am told by my officers that they are kept in very good health. I want to kick off discussions a little bit early. I hope you don't mind. I arrived here a little early so we can have a very personal talk between the two pinnacle leaders of the Shanghai Five.
I don't mind, Mr. Zemin. You're always a welcome guest in Moscow.
Thank you very much. As you well know, the Shanghai Five has acted as a very important political authority within the Asian and Central Asian region, primarily in terms of political disputes. But the CCP and my administration feels like it could be much more. We think that given our attempts to start to cooperate with ASEAN, India, Japan, the Koreas, and other, of course, Central Asian countries that you yourself have a lot of sway over, there is now a very unique opportunity for the development of a larger economic zone that, frankly, is rather unprecedented.
Interesting proposal.
We are suggesting the formal creation of a political entity. The way that I would describe it would be kind of like an economic NATO. We are proposing to name the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It would serve as an economic cooperation zone for Asia and Central Asia, as well as a political institution for further more in-depth cooperation, regardless of political affiliation. Simply a desire to cooperate economically and to work together.
Russia is really open to this idea. I believe that is a good idea to also combat American influence over the world, as you
We agree.
surely are aware. And we think that presenting the world a second option, so to speak, would be a good... so you're proposing this in the long run as the model the European Union has, basically.
I don't think the EU is a good model to follow, in that they are far too centralized, and that's not something that I'm looking for with this sort of organization. The CCP in China values their territorial and political sovereignty quite a lot. This would be purely an economic agreement, and it would not even require joint economic policy, just simply cooperation and shared goals.
That is good because, as you may know, Russia also values its
Of course.
sovereignty, and we don't believe in the EU model.
Also,
That
I do
is
see
good.
that the parade has started. Well, do you mind if I go ahead and play an anthem of China for this march while my men go by?
Oh, go ahead. That would be
Wonderful, wonderful. We brought our own band here, of course, as the military of China takes these things very seriously. This is one of the important Chinese military songs, and a good background as we watch the absolutely fantastic divisions of the Chinese People's Military pass by us. So anyway, Mr. Putin, getting back on hand as we watch this fantastic parade, and may I just say that this parade is of the highest quality as we honor such a historical day for both the Russian people, the Chinese people, and the world as a whole.
Not at all, Mr. Zeman. Russia will gladly accept it.
Wonderful. To start off with, we think it would be primarily the Central Asian countries, as well as China, but we would like to see it expanded into Asian, potentially even Taiwan, and, sorry, I apologize, the Republic of China, the Koreas, Japan, and India in the future, as well as any other good friends mutually between Russia and China. The end goal for Russia and China, in our eyes, must be the overthrowing of the Western economic system and the establishment of a new one. As the majority of the population exists within Asia, the majority of the, I think, wise decision-making also exists here. The West, for all their prosperity, they are very unwise often in the choices they make.
They are. And I think with this proposal, we can, of course, expand and be more independent from the Western, so to say, adversaries, as I like to call them.
Fully agreed.
We will redefine economics and the world as a whole. This is
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
This is a phone call from Jiang Zemin.
This is the chairman himself. Yes. Congratulations on your victory, President Shubian.
Thank you. I was meaning to talk to you, but yeah, I want to speak to you mainly about the South China Sea. If we can do that at any moment.
Yes, as you well know, there was a negotiation over the South China Sea over the last several months involving talks from Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, the Philippines, and of course the former president of the Republic of China was involved.
Will you still follow international law regarding the South China Sea, or
as we have negotiated a separate agreement with Asian countries, we will not explicitly be using the treaty defined with the United States articles. However, we have found a middle ground, which is a little less extreme, wherein international waters no longer factor in. But it was agreed upon and signed by all of the members who have contended that zone.
Well, we are a bit worried about that, but we see China as a trusting country. I do wish to also speak to you on complete Taiwanese independence. We have not endorsed such a policy. We're waiting for how the Taiwanese or the Republican Chinese people were to react to this. But in the event where Taiwanese independence, complete Taiwanese independence becomes favorable to weak voters, would you be willing to accept that?
As far as I'm concerned, you are entirely independent of us right now.
Okay, very well. All right, very well. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I think that is it. Goodbye.
Then we'll build a few more nuclear reactors on the coastline to power all that industry, and then we'll build a couple in the interior as well. All right, so we're gonna have a UN meeting, obviously, given that there's potentially about to be a world war. America is at war with Novorussia. Novorussia is basically a puppet state of Russia, so we're on the edge of a pretty bad situation here, to be honest.
The UN acknowledges the delegates of Russia.
Gentlemen, Ukraine has recently made deals that completely infringe on our territorial integrity and our interests. Thus, I decided to seize Crimea and sponsor the Donbas region to get free from Ukraine. Furthermore, America directly got involved into this war. If America does not back down, Russia announces a special military operation inside of the Donbas to ensure that the Donbas peoples are safe from American oppression. If America does not back down, the Russian military has the authorization to shoot at any American military equipment that will arrive there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The UN acknowledges the delegates of the People's Republic of China.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We find ourselves here under a very unfortunate situation. China finds the escalating situation in Ukraine to be absolutely unacceptable and damaging both the international norms, global military security, and as well as China and her allies' own economic stability. The actions in Crimea must be properly investigated by the UN. However, we find the most issue in America's unacceptable unilateral military action by declaring war on Novorussia. This is an extremely dangerous thing to do, and we would call upon President Bush to stand down, as starting a war in the Ukraine against a splinter state here could spell global destruction. Such a quick knee-jerk reaction by the United States is not unexpected, but it is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The UN acknowledges the delegates of the United States.
Yes, thank you. When I declared my war on terror, I meant war on terror. Russia's not only seizing of land from Ukraine is showing that he wishes to play bully with Crimea, especially within the Ukraine region. The US will not tolerate. We may have let slide your Australian actions, but the US will not bow down to your threats. We will send special troops to Ukraine to crush these terrorists like we crushed Iraqi terrorists. The US will not back down to such a aggressive Russian policy. Ukraine will have its independence respected.
Since America has involved itself in this war and is directly interfering in Russian sphere of influence, we perceive this as a direct threat to our national sovereignty and into the territorial integrity. And we ask once again America to withdraw from this war. Otherwise, Russia will safeguard the Donbass by themselves. So we propose that America should immediately withdraw from the Donbass war, as well as recognize that Crimea is now under Russian protection.
You can put it to a UNSC vote, but I'm pretty sure you know what's going to happen when it comes to my turn.
I know,
But
Mr.
if we're not withdrawing against terrorism. We didn't withdraw when
This is not a terrorist
9/11
state. This is
It
a
is.
region. This is a region that broke free, that is not happy with the Ukrainian government, and they're seeking their own determination.
They are committed. I have heard reports that they've committed act of terrorism upon rising up. They have.
We have not heard
mistreated-
about this report, Mr. Bush.
Even I would like to ask for a moment: is the United Kingdom and France supporting America unilaterally placing troops on the border of Russia in what is going to be seen by China and the international community as a very hostile act? Because they will represent NATO in doing so, which will represent your countries.
We don't
Of
support
course,
that
we
at
do
all.
not.
Yeah,
No, of
US
course not.
had
This should
US,
not reflect
US
Europe's standards.
stated it won't be putting troops on you. I've already stated with Russia that I'm not putting any troops on his border. They are
Putting them in
making their-
Ukraine is still on the border of Russia. You can pretend anything you like.
There's no guarantee that the United States military operations will not drift towards the Russian border.
Correct.
They are being closely watched by the military police. US
Today.
will withdraw its troops to Poland. We will stay them in Poland as Poland is a member of NATO, which is we are within our own right and reason to have troops in Poland.
That is good to
That is
hear.
agreeable.
I would like to call upon NATO to have a discussion regarding these actions, as if China continues to see such dangerous actions from NATO countries regarding the Eastern European region, we are going to really have to reevaluate our political, military, and economic relationship with NATO countries here, because this is seen as a very hostile act by Beijing. We understand this is a complex situation, but such a quick action without even consulting with Beijing, and from the sound of it, possibly even other NATO countries, means that we do hope that NATO will be able to get their system more in line in the future, as this has resulted in us getting closer to a nuclear and international war than I think we've seen the world in quite some time.
Yes,
Thank you.
the French will call for this meeting.
Good.
Because
So
this
let me
this
just-
war and this involvement in this war does not reflect Europe as a whole. So I would propose on the table for us to vote on that the United States withdraw its military, which they've stated that they would, to Poland. The Russian government does not get involved any further in this conflict than they already are. And the whatever happens in Ukraine happens in Ukraine.
Russia supports this motion.
America supports this proposal.
Okay, supports this proposal.
China supports this proposal.
Very well.
We got very close to World War there. America got really quickly involved when they had no business doing so that was worrying. Going to continue to build up those mega cities since we're industrializing the coastal regions, of course. What this means practically is that we are going to provide for basic hospital subsidies. We are going to do free universally quality education, and we are going to do basic pensions for the elderly. And then in order to compensate for that really high cost, we are going to raise tax rates a little bit. 2% on corporations, and then 4% on the population. tax rate, which will make our stability quite low, which is very unfortunate, but necessary. Pay the parcels. The parcel islands hold great strategic value in the South China Sea and give us access to lucrative resource extraction opportunities. Despite the benefits of maintaining our de facto control over the parcels, we should consider the possibility of sharing these resources with Vietnam through joint development zones, or even giving up control completely in order to negotiate the ends of the current dispute. We're going to share them. Increased development assistance. Our current development efforts can be improved upon further to accelerate economic growth in SCO member states, which improves the development assistance decisions that we've been doing. Bhutan wishes to be an observer, sure. Next session, we're going to do the Belt and Road Initiative. Session 3 will be the Belt and Road Initiative, and then we're going to start an automobile industry, and then probably start a space program. So, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations exists in part to counter our influence in the region, mainly for that. Having peacefully resolved the disputes that caused our neighbors to fear us, the Asian member states should be less suspicious of our intentions going forward. The unspoken function of Asian was to balance against our influence, so our efforts to improve relations with Asian member states and their distrust of us means that there is only one now way is clear to integrate Asian into the SCO, significantly boosting the membership of our organization.